Tick tock, time to rock.
Well, hello, everybody. You are listening to the Soundguys podcast.com, your daily, weekly, monthly dose of anything, everything, related to sound, entertainment, media, politics, physics, conspiracies, stock market tips, crypto exchanges, and political science. I am your Banjo Bob, joined by who?
I am the neighborhood Nick. Live from the studio, ladies and gentlemen, where I'm actually in a studio.
We're in, neighborhood Nick is in the studio. I am the field producer, doing my thing out here in the field, like any good field producer, hanging out and doing stuff in the field. So,
we go live now to Banjo Bob.
Go live now.
Totally do something like that. We could.
Oh, goodness. So we're trying to keep things more consistent no matter what life and work throws at us. It seems the neighborhood Nick is locked into his compound because a whole bunch of snow decided to spew and barf and puke all over him. And that's okay.
Locked down the highways. Locked it down.
But see, the thing is, one thing we've learned about neighborhood Nick is he really does love to add drama.
Drama's good. Drama is excellent.
Because goodness knows, it's really not that bad up there, Nick.
It's terrifying. There's walls of snow. We got car accidents, and search and rescue had to go out and rescue hundreds of people.
Hey, did they find that skier, or is he dead?
Which one?
The one that was like working at North Star and actually was a ski kind of guy?
I haven't heard an update on that story, so I don't know.
You're kidding. What?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to...
I will look this up.
Hang on. I'll look it up.
But I have an actual computer where I can put things on the screen.
Plumas County missing. Whatever. I don't know what the search query would be. Oh, goodness. Yeah, one day ago, they're still looking for that skier. No, they haven't found him. His name's Rory. Rory Angolotta. So there you go. So he's dead. I don't feel optimistic about this guy anymore. He was like apparently really well trained for the snow. I mean, like, but here's the thing.
This was fairly recent. This was very recent.
That's what I mean. Yeah, dude, gosh, where have you been? Anyways, yeah, Rory, he's like, he's a pretty hip looking man, hip looking dude. He's major, he's outdoor, he's extreme. He likes Shaun White. He's extreme and he's good. So I would have expected them to. Oh, wait, are you on the same article that I am? No.
This was Action News Now just a few days ago on December 28th, saying that they are going and searching for him. And has not been updated since.
Right. December 29th is my dateline, and all it is simply this. Police missing. They found his pass and the ski lift around 11:30. No activity was reported after that. His car was found in the resort parking lot, and his phone was also turned off. So I don't know, man.
Intense. That's intense.
He's gone missing since Christmas. So quite frankly, I really would have thought they would have found him by now. And this tells me that there's probably no hope.
He's most likely dead.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, but I mean, hey, that's how on the Soundguys, that's how we call it. We call it like we see it. It is what it is.
It's real. It's how it goes.
We speak. Hello?
I'm getting a phone call.
Do you have another studio call coming in there? Neighborhood Nick?
Apparently. One second here. We're live right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Who's your guest caller?
One second. I think I can put this actually on the screen for everyone at home.
Who is your guest call? Well, they won't be able to see or hear me because you have to integrate it into Zoom. They have to make the Zoom call.
So, I understand that, but I guess we could do it that way. But
yeah, you should have them. Whoever called you,
they hung up on me.
Yeah. Well, you need to tell them if they're going to call back and they need to be a part of this, they need to join your Zoom call because no, this is silliness. Well, this is So anyways, yeah, going back to dead skiers and hikers, dude. So did you hear about the it's one of the weirdest like death stories in like the like hiker lore of those Russian hikers. What was the story? But like it's hiker lore. Like anyone who's a major outdoor enthusiast. It's called the how do you pronounce it? The Daltiov. I mean, it's the Daltiov Pass. But neighborhood Nick, you're gonna get a trip out of this.
All right,
I don't want to do it wrong. So I'm gonna load up the pronunciation so I can say it correctly. But anyways, these guys, it was like five or six really well-skilled hikers, Russian hikers. Like, they in Russia, it's all frozen up there anyways.
Of course.
Anyways, so they're out there and hang on, they were found, with their tents ripped. So the way they found them, let's start in reverse. They found like 3 of the hikers, okay, in a ravine.
Only 3.
Hear me out. 3 of them in a ravine, naked, with their eyes eaten out, their scalps eaten off, and their ribs crushed, like really weird conditions. They found some other hikers in different, not their own clothes, but in the other hikers' clothes. The tents had been cut from the inside, and hands were burned. And here's the most chilling thing of the whole thing. Their bodies, every single one of their bodies, were extremely radioactive. Yeah. So explain that part. I can explain the rest of this. And my internet won't pronounce it, but it's the Dyatlov Pass incident. So if you look, it's spelled Dyatlov group. The Dyatlov group is called the Dyatlov Pass incident, and it was in 1959. 9 Russian hikers died, and basically they were. It's almost like they were part of some Russian experiment.
Naturally, that's bound to happen.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, see here, it was Soviet authorities that they had 6 of them who died from hypothermia. I'm just reading the wiki, but 2 had chest trauma, a small crack in the skull. 4 of the bodies were found lying in running water in a creek. 3 had these soft tissue damage to the head and face. 2 of the bodies were missing their eyes. 1 was missing its tongue. 1 was missing its eyebrow. And the investigation concluded that, quote unquote, compelling natural force had caused the deaths. But the thing is, no one could explain why all of the bodies were radioactive. And that's really you're looking at it. Isn't that crazy? So anyways,
the real question is, why was it so radioactive?
I know.
Did they get radiation
that's
poisoning?
Easier to pronounce. It's just when you say it like a Russian, it's Dyatlov.
Dyatlov.
Okay, yeah. In Russian, it's Dyatlov.
We go to Dyatlov.
Yeah, it's okay. Listen, it is the Dyatlov group. All Russians died. Absolutely.
So what it sounds like to me, though, is that they got radiation poison. Okay, but there was some radiation poison. But if they were in fact part of an experiment, there's also, I believe it was the Russian sleep experiments, where basically people just were not allowed to sleep for a certain period amount of time, and they started going absolutely insane. And there was this noxious gas thing involved also. Maybe I'm mixing a few things together. You can find random YouTube conspiracies about this, but it started turning them into actual, for lack of a better word, into animals, where they would attack anyone that got close to them. They hid, tried to hide. They were screaming, gnashing of teeth. It was kind of chaotic. So,
gnashing of teeth.
Yes. So my guess, though, is that if there was a Russian experiment, which there's a very high likelihood there could have been, where all of a sudden their minds just went crazy and they went into survival instinct mode and just started eating whatever they could, including the weaker members of the hiking party, which makes sense. I mean, we've seen that with the Donner Party. So there's a plausible chance that that could have happened, and then they all slowly just went insane and died in snow and ate each other.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. As no one will ever really know, but I just really think that it's a conspiracy worth talking about, because at least talking about hikers, this is one of those things that everyone knows about, and they're just like, it's just like, everything else could be explained away. You know, oh, maybe it was an avalanche. They thought they heard an avalanche, and so to save themselves, they cut out of the tent and they went for a run. They grabbed what clothes they had. That was explained. Also, when they got lost and disoriented, they started fires. That's why it explains the burned hands and all that stuff. But the radiation, and even the eyes being eaten out in the tongue, you know, soft, that could be animals.
Could have been. Maybe they died in a place where they were testing nuclear weapons.
Well, and that's the thing. So here's one more piece of the conspiracy. So Dyatlov, right? Dyatlov Pass. Okay. Yep. Okay. So who was the deputy chief engineer of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant?
Someone by the name of Dyatlov.
Antonov Stepanov Dyatlov. He was and not only that, he was the he served time in prison because he was pushing lax safety protocols, because like, no, we can get more power from her. She can do more. She can do more.
Why not? Go all out. Go all out.
So that was Dyatlov. I don't know.
Chance.
Fun stuff, huh?
These are fun little conspiracy theories, ladies and gentlemen.
Here on the Soundguys,
we sometimes dabble in these strange conspiracy theories. You can go through all of our first season and see our conspiracy theories from COVID to CEO midlife crisis to the metaverse. There's a whole wide range of conspiracy theories that we have. And now you've just heard the Dyatlov incident conspiracy theory.
But oh no.
But we actually did have a real show planned out for you, ladies and gentlemen.
We did. I didn't get a memo.
This was your idea. This was your idea.
Do we have a show? Maybe this is the show, Nick.
I thought you had the show idea.
I do. Well, I have plenty of. Oh wait. Well, do you have ideas to share too? You have topics? Neighborhood Nick, lately you've been not listening to me. Lately, you've been just riding along, ad-libbing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't even like that was the one what was it? It was episode 1 where I'm talking about, there's your translucent water. For the YouTube viewers at home, you're like, oh, this guy, he chromed out his water. No, I was talking about how the Facebook game was rigged with the new crypto tokens. And you're like, it's just like PayPal. I'm like, you're not listening to a word I'm saying. It's not like PayPal. PayPal is moving actual cash. They're holding cash. The cash is part of, they're entrusted with that. Facebook is just making you buy tokens, and those tokens have no value if Facebook says they have no value. So there's nothing holding Facebook to the fire to be like, hey, by the way, we're using, what was it called? Nomi, Zoomi, whatever.
Novi.
Novi. And Novi has no right as a safekeeping device. If you bought 1 million tokens right now to transfer 1 million Novis to someone else, all right, it's not like PayPal because you bought a token and Facebook at a drop of a hat could be like, you know what? Actually, those tokens are now worth half of that. And who pocketed the other $500,000? Facebook did. Man. And all you said to that was, this is going to take over the world. This is like, what do you, I was like, what do you even mean? You're not even listening to what I was saying, Nick. You're like, I know. I'm like, so no.
We had also just eaten a tri-tip sandwich or some fake Philly cheesesteak thing.
No, it was Wiener Schnitzel.
No, Wiener Schnitzel happened later.
Did it?
Yes.
Oh no, we ate Pilot, and you were poo-pooing on Pilot because you always talked about how we don't eat healthy, on the road. Exactly. And actually, no, you were projecting your own shortcomings because I called BS on that one. You were like, no, we don't eat healthy on the road. I'm like, yeah, well, actually, come to think of it, you were the one that picked the place. You were the one that ordered, and I gave you the phone to do Uber Eats, and you're like, oh, let's get pizza. I'm like,
because it was a pizza can a day, I think, and it was a delicious pizza.
It was exactly. It's no poo-poo on the food. We take it gamble. I mean, if it was healthy, we'll just all get salads. Jeez, man. Salads and grilled chicken.
I do have one topic on my mind at the current moment that you have kind of addressed in the past very lightly.
Yeah.
But I would also be curious of knowing what your topics are, and we can see which one we want to gravitate towards.
Well, what? I was opening up another thing I found super interesting, but I'm after that rant, I was like, I've totally
lost it. You lost your whole train of thought.
Yeah, neighborhood Nick, people listen to me way too much. You say something now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we are now approaching, well, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be after the new year. But as we approach the new year, tonight is December 30th, 2021. The year that was supposedly going to be the year of the vaccine and the year of normality, which did not happen. Apparently, normality will never exist ever again. But there is now new tech disasters fast approaching. Apparently, there is rumors, but also some serious concerns of those dreaded warnings we've heard on planes so very often coming into reality. Those warnings of, please turn off your cell phone and computers and all electronics before takeoff and prior to landing. You know what I'm talking about here?
Yep.
All right. I forgot what your name is already.
I'm Banjo Bob.
You're Banjo Bob. Yes. Mr. Banjo Bob. Well, yeah, now...
No, this is some serious stuff. Go on, neighborhood Nick. Go on.
Well, now we have the innovation of 5G towers entering into the world, and 5G signal paths, or what bandwidth or wavelengths, or whatever we're going to call it today, because I honestly have no idea exactly what it's called, interrupting, causing issues for pilots inside the aircraft, causing the instruments in the aircraft to go haywire. Now, this could have some serious ramifications. And now there's already talks in the government, of which we've talked about this in the past, about how the government purchases different bandwidths. We were talking mainly for the purpose of wireless microphones, but there now is talks that the government is going to have to purchase new bandwidth locations to avoid 5G interfering with airplane instruments, flight towers, or airport towers, flight deck control. What's it called?
What? No, flight deck control?
No, the tower at the airport that talks to all the planes.
Yeah. That's ground control.
Ground control, yes.
Remember the song? Ground Control to Major Tom? Ground Control to Major Tom? Shut up. You know the song. Check your ignition and may Godspeed be with you. This is Ground Control to Major Tom. You're coming in loud. David Bowie? Oh, no. Is it?
This sounds like it was before my time.
No, it doesn't. No, yeah, it was before my time. It was before everyone's time, really, but it's a great song.
I have not heard this song.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to this song and see what it is all about.
Yeah, Ground Control, take your protein pills and put your helmet on. It is a just...
Is this a classic?
And the thing is, it's a really well done song. There's a lot of David Bowie's music that is timeless in a cinematic way. I've talked about this before from an artistic standpoint. For those who probably listen or didn't know or do know, I was a music supervisor years and years ago, and a music supervisor's job is just that, to be able to take tunes and match them with the art director and be like, okay, this is going to go here, and that's going to create the vision you want. And David Bowie, oh my goodness, there's just tons of music from his library, and also, the director Wes Anderson. A lot of his films just utilized a lot of the emotion from the David Bowie, especially Life Aquatic. If it's not necessarily the most PG rated, movie, but just for the sake of the story and the tunes, how they kind of melds it all together. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou by Wes Anderson. Really good use of David Bowie's music. Anyways, whatever. You missed it. It's called Space Odyssey, was Ground Control Major Tom. And then also Is There Life on Mars by David Bowie. Those are two really, yeah. Okay, so Nick, 5G is bringing down airplanes. We know that. And we talked about this for a long time, and it's finally happening.
Yep, and it looks like the government is going to have to intervene and purchase more bandwidth.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Well, where are they going to purchase it from?
I have no idea.
Well, what part of the frequency hold on. What part of the frequency spectrum are they going to buy? Are they going to go up to 6 or 4 or 7G? Where are they going to go?
An excellent question. These are just rumors that I've heard up on Capitol Hill. I have no clear details of what it is, but apparently they want to purchase to make it where planes are going to have safety once again and not have 5G interfering with all the instruments on the plane or receiving phone calls or radio frequencies and stuff from ground control on people's cell phones and things of that nature.
The challenge is actually it's more or less on the instruments. You've got to talk to Lockheed Martin, Airbus, Boeing, these folks, Embraer. All these clowns have got to start making instruments that are of a different category. That because, it's just like, with microwave in general. Microwave, as radio frequencies move faster, they work their way up the spectrum chain, 5, 6, 7, 8G. They're moving faster, they create vibrations. And if you have equipment that is tuned to radio frequencies, that especially the whole transponder system for our, maybe I'm wrong on this, I'd love to get some comments or feedback, but as I understand it, being a pilot once myself, I know, I do a lot. The point is that when you fly via IFR, there are transponders that you tune your aircraft to. To fly with your instrumentation, it's all radio waves. And those radio waves are typically low in the 200 megahertz, 100 in the VHF range. And they just started getting up into the 900 megahertz range. And so the challenge is that with having your transponder tuned to a specific beacon so you can fly and guide your plane through fog or inclement weather or whatever to a runway and get onto the ILS approach, which is another transponder. It's all radio. It's all radio. It hasn't changed since the 70s, 60s, 70s. And so the challenge is that it's not that they're trying to buy. I don't see how the government can fix it by buying more bandwidth, because the higher you go up the frequency spectrum, the more interference you're going to cause with the lower frequency instruments. I mean, and this is just a layman commenting on what you've brought up. Mm-hmm. I don't see that being a solution at all. I mean, it's essentially a complete overhaul of the transponder of the radio directional system for the United States, and I think really the world, because there was certain standards we made. I would propose that the FCC get a little more stringent on limitations of how much a cellular carrier can carry. If everybody's putting phones on towers, then we need to look at a better way of managing a tighter spectrum, as opposed to just pushing more into, quote, 5G and 6G and all that crap, because it's a faster wavelength, it's a less reliable wavelength, and it's a disruptive wavelength. Mm-hmm. So we're getting lazy. That's what I'm getting at. We're getting super lazy. Let's think about it back in the day when, like, electrosonics. Here's a cool thing for the geeks out there. Electrosonics is the Porsche, it's the Bentley, the Rolls-Royce of wireless audio for broadcast and video production. I mean, yeah, Shure is kind of like, the Ford. Okay, fine. Everyone's got a Shure, and they got, the Ford GT is like, the Shure QLX. Fine. But the Shure QLX holds nothing to electrosonics, even when they first went into business in the 70s and 80s. And here's why. What Electro did back then, their engineers were like, well, we don't have any higher frequencies. We only have this, 400, 500, 600 megahertz range. What can we do with it? And they basically, tuned crystals. It was old school. You had a crystal that was tuned to, say, 590.250 megahertz. Okay. So this receiver and transmitter is bonded to, the 590 dot 250 megahertz range. Okay. But that wasn't enough, because everybody can tune to that same frequency and get in and out and make it work. Right. Okay. Well, they did a compounder. It's compander or pounder, whatever it is. Basically, it's a built-in piece of gating equipment. So my voice, I'm going through a wireless lab right now, and my voice, the highs and the lows are kind of being compressed to be able to make the best use of that UHF signal to get good signal versus noise.
Exactly.
Well, they set it up in a way of actually putting two compounders, one for the high frequency, one for the low frequency, so you wouldn't get all this crappy hiss, but you would get more natural tone. They patented that. Electrosonics made that a thing. Shure can't do that. Shure still only has one compounder, and it's the actual element. So, like, I'm talking on a W185. It's a very expensive microphone capsule going into a GLX, whatever. That doesn't matter. The transmitter in Shure's ecosystem, and people may argue with me, but the transmitter in Shure's ecosystem doesn't necessarily matter. The microphone, the capture source does. So you're getting me on a 185. So with Electro, though, they're like, no, the whole signal chain needs to be perfect. Well, what made it unique was they put pilot tones in the inaudible range. They were the first ones to really do this. So up in the 30,000 hertz range, that's totally inaudible to your ear, or the 10 hertz range, which is subsonic, those pilot tones would be sent out by the receiver and the transmitter, and they would lock in. Okay. That's how you use good frequencies. It's the same way the FRS radios were able to use 14 channels, but allow people to talk over 24 channels. Yeah, you're really compressing down the bandwidth, but you're better utilizing the bandwidth. Think about it that way. You only have 11 channels of Wi-Fi on the 2.4 gigahertz range. 11 freaking channels. And why does everybody want to go to channel 6? It's stupid. Balance out your stuff. If you go to an apartment building, you see everybody's Wi-Fi is on channel 6. Okay? Well, if you think about that, though, if it's an 11-story building, you can put the first floor, you can do one channel per floor, and you're still utilizing the space because guess what? It's a narrow band. You go to the next apartment building, do the same thing because you're not going to get a lot of crossover. It's the same thing with FM. If we're going to shoot more power onto a frequency, let's say at 25 watts, 30 watts, really pump it down, that other frequency is going to be shut off until you get closer to their transmitter. So I've thoroughly bored everybody. I am worried about that because it's stupid. All it's doing is just opening up us, the consumer, for more getting screwed. I mean, we are. That's essentially it. The consumer will get screwed.
It's very true. And there's life and death risk if this actually caused bad enough interference for planes, and who knows what else it could possibly affect. So I guess the real solution, though, instead of purchasing bandwidth, which apparently is going to cost millions to billions of dollars for the government to do, it sounds more that plane manufacturers need to update their own equipment to be able to mitigate some of these risks.
Yeah. Hear that? Put a Faraday shield around everything. I don't know. Magnetically seal stuff off. Who knows?
Or just have people, turn off their cell phones and laptops upon takeoff and landing.
Well, they could do that, and they could just also impede the frequency, but that might also mess up the, I don't know. Good stuff, Nick. Very scary.
That's usually what I bring to the table.
You always bring pretty damning things, pretty scary things.
Exactly.
Well, with that being said, though, I mean, good segue into something else. The freaking government doing that. I bet. I mean, how many? Have you ever been familiar? Have you heard of the Stanley R. Mickelson Safeguard Complex?
No.
Neighborhood Nick?
No, I have not.
Heard of that? Have you ever? Huh?
No.
This is another brilliant conspiracy use of government dollars. It was built at the cost of $6 billion in Tacoma, North Dakota. It was a massive complex of missile silos, a giant pyramid-shaped radar system, and dozens of launching silos for surface-to-air missiles tipped with thermonuclear warheads. Okay?
Nice. Okay.
It took almost 2 years to build, and it was commissioned for 1 day, and it was decommissioned 24 hours later.
Wow. That's impressive.
$6 billion. $6 billion. So Elon Musk's taxes paid for this. And you should Google it. It's such a trip because you can go there, you can look at it, but it's so brutalist in terms of design and everything. You're just like, what was this really for? What was the main thing going on here? Because there's no way that they officially opened it and closed it within 24 hours to put in all of this work for the Stanley R. Mickelson Safeguard Complex in North Dakota. I mean, and when you see the pictures, you're just like, ooh, it's kind of a enforcing kind of, imposing facility. It's like, oh, what is this? Very, very Dr. Evil. And yeah, dude, it's not, and people go up there. I guess you can go and scope it out. You can explore. In fact, I intend to go and explore it this summer. Yeah, that's it. I want to go check that place out. No trespassing, it says, but apparently there are ways to go and hang out, and you can go and check it out.
So looking at this image, the pyramid is the radar base,
yep,
you said?
That was the big radar tower.
Okay. So, and this was in operation for one single day.
Yep.
For what when was this built?
It was built in the 60s, apparently, to shoot down incoming Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what the story says.
Interesting.
That's what they say. They're like, this is for us to shoot down Russian missiles. But apparently we only needed to shoot them down for a day.
Just one day.
Just only one day.
Well, that's impressive. I mean, we find numerous ways of spending money, but why not? Why not make a nuclear base for one day?
They don't prohibit they don't condone, going and actually entering the base, but judging by photos and yeah, people are getting on the base. People hop on that base and explore and get in there, and some of the pictures are just out of this world. So it's definitely worth spending a night in jail for. But I'm sure really, I mean, after all the research I've looked at and pictures, I mean, there's not much more to photograph. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's not worth the night in jail. I don't know. It just seems very sus for a government to build such a interesting looking facility and do nothing with it, essentially.
Well, maybe. And this could also be a theory. I haven't done much research into this, but I could check this.
You should.
But the government typically also will do random building projects to supply jobs for necessary communities. And this could have been just one of those random projects that they decided to justify the cost of a global nuclear war. And North Dakotans needed some jobs. Go out there, build some nuclear silos. It took 2 years. That's 2 years worth of reliable wages and income.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And a few congressmen probably lobbied and rallied to get the funding for. And then the military probably was like, hey, no one's coming from the North right now. Let's ignore this.
You are 100% right. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of how the New Deal was, the roads, infrastructure programs, put America back to work. At least we know we got jobs for a couple of years. That's nice. That was nice about the 5-year NATO contracts. I mean, yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And maybe so. Maybe so.
It could be. It could be a part of it.
I mean, I don't think they were coming from the North. It was just that maybe that was probably a good strategic place.
I'm not so sure about that because we already had numerous radar stations in the Arctic. We still currently have numerous ones in the Arctic from Alaska. We have access to the Canadian stations that they have up in the tundra and everything like that.
Further away from like the poles.
Right, but if anything's coming from Russia, those radar stations would be able to pick it up first.
Absolutely. Yeah, Alaska is closer as who taught us that? The governor? The governor taught us that. Who was the governor of Alaska?
Sarah Palin?
Yeah, she taught us that she could wave at Putin, just, hi.
She could from her front porch.
From her front porch, she could wave right at him. I don't know, man. Building projects are, and the thing is this also, I'm not a conspiracist on the whole global. I mean, global warming is one thing, but I've been really giving it some more thought. And I still am not 100% convinced that it's the emissions that are doing it. I mean, I'm going to go out there right now because here's the thing. I will admit it's man-made. The problem is man-made, but I think it's much bigger than this. Did you see the recent study that came out from NASA and MIT, how the Earth has been measurably slowed by a couple milliseconds because
Are you talking about its rotate, like its spinning rotation or the orbit?
Yeah, its spinning rotation has been slowed. Our day has been extended by like 3 milliseconds, 4 milliseconds because of the Three Gorges Dam.
Love it. Gotta love that Three Gorges Dam. It does so much.
That Three Gorges Dam is nothing but just trouble all around.
It's flooding. It sometimes breaks. It's 80% of crypto miners, luxury homes. It's capable of massive destruction. And now it's slowing down the Earth.
Well, and if you think about it from a physics standpoint, it's perfect. You know, when figure skaters bring their arms in, right? You know, their center core of gravity is lessened. So in a very layman's term, think of it this way. You know, our arms are still attached to the item creating drag. So therefore, if we're spinning in a chair, we raise our arms, we start to slow down because our arms are creating drag and they're still attached. So in this respect, the body of water is still attached to the earth. It's still creating drag. When that body of water raises, it's moving further away from the surface. Stop yawning. You're trying so hard not to yawn. I can see.
I'm about to laugh, honestly, because this is hilarious.
Anyways, the point is the water moves further away from the surface of the earth, but it's still connected, causing drag. And dams, believe it or not, dams are slowing the rotation of the earth. And by slowing the rotation of the earth, we're having some issues with weather and blah, blah, blah. However, there has still been nothing majorly convincing that when you report, if you look at the news, when you report on something, you say, oh, well, this is the worst winter we've had on record. The thing is, they can truthfully say that on record, depending on which record they're looking at. So I can truthfully say, this is the worst year I've had on record. Well, which record am I referring to? It's all very spinach. And so, you know, if we look at other records, if we look at historical records, and, you know, we've had some really trippy things happen and things that we couldn't, I mean, what was it that happened? It was that great, there was a huge, almost, I wouldn't call it a supernova. But there was the sun went haywire.
The sun went haywire.
Huh?
The sun went haywire?
Yeah, in the 1800s. Hang on. The Carrington Event. Have you heard of this?
I don't. I study political science, not actual science.
Oh, well, the actual scientists can turn off your power. So, anyways.
It's true.
So the Carrington Event, check this out. This was when we still had a little bit of records keeping. It was a geomagnetic storm that was recorded in the first and second part of September. Well, September 1 and 2, 1859. I want people to look this up because essentially what this was is the sun went nuts. And on top of this, because everything back in the day, and still very closely to today's, you know, standards, everything's electrical. Everything is all connected. We had telegraph operators getting shocked and killed by their telegraphs. They were pulling the batteries off their telegraph machines, and the telegraph machines were still chattering away, just losing their minds. Telegraph wires were, you know, catching fire across the nation. You had turbines that were overheating. This was a huge thing that happened in America, and we just have happily forgotten it. We're like, wait a second. Well, why was it? Because you're telling me that something this epic that did this much damage to an electrical infrastructure that happened, you know, in 1859. And if you think about these things being, you know, cyclical, you tell me that something like this isn't going to happen again. I wouldn't say soon, but let's just say, because if this happened in 1859, does this happen in 1959? Does this happen in 2059? You see what I'm saying?
It's true. I see what you're saying here. This is like impressive.
It was a massive deal. I don't know. There's just little things that I always like, you know, I want people to kind of just think about, you know, that's all it is. It's not a big deal, but you know, if you look at the solar storms we had in that same 100-year gap from 1951 to 1956, there was some epic storms too, where you could have, it was in 1951, was Aurora 4. It's just little things. I could go on, but
so it sounds though, from what I'm gathering, from what you're telling me right now, as I'm trying to place this all in my head, I clearly need to do more research into it.
Yeah, you've got some research to do for a show, buddy.
This is true, and we can spend an entire show just on this Carrington event. But the question becomes, if this, let's go with global warming, climate change, whatever way you want to phrase it, with the focus solely being, and we saw this especially with the global climate summit thing in Italy and Scotland, the Glasgow thing, where nations are vowing we're going to reduce emissions, we're going to blah, 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 blah by 2050. Some say 2030. India's like 2070, specifically in regards to coal and whatnot. If the crisis, because we also know that carbon dioxide and methane are gases holding heat in. But it also sounds like we could be experiencing a natural heating because more surface area of the sun is being not surface area of the sun, more surface area of the earth is cooking by a few milliseconds longer. We could be experiencing a combination of the two. And with all of our infrastructure plans, on one end, it has produced carbon dioxide, but it could also be that these infrastructure plans that have gone through the past, including, the Hoover Dam, the Three Gorges Dam, and other things of that nature that are producing hydroelectric power in an effort to reduce and bring down the emissions, could actually be playing an impact to actually help increase the temperature. Because I know for one thing, if the Earth starts really slowing down, I mean, a few milliseconds is one thing, but that alone, if the Earth was 1 foot or 1 foot closer to the sun, 1 foot farther away from the sun, we could all die. But if we start slowing down, we could all die in that fashion also. You've
opened it up. One more question I've always had. You did this without us. We never rehearsed these shows, and you did this so beautifully, Nick, because you have opened it up to a question that I always have had. Now, see, this is the thing that
what is that
since
question?
I am, an engineer, I do really like to think. I like to ponder. I love systems, and I've said this probably countless times on our shows. I love systems. I love making little systems to make things work. But I also ask questions, and some of those questions are this. Firstly,
number one,
if we're slowing down, right? Okay, yes. That's fair, because slowing leaves certain areas more prone to the sun's heat. So yes, you get more evaporation on the ocean. Now, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to say page 2. Everyone hold that thought. I would say that just to throw this out there, and I have nothing to back this up, no evidence whatsoever, but I would say that people already know that we're doomed. I would say that a lot of people already know that we're doomed, and that global warming is the phrase global warming is going to be the patsy and the blame for what's really coming. Because essentially...
Well, that's why we've changed it now to climate change.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. Climate change. If we look at a lot of these things that are cyclical, I'd like everybody one of these days to Google the Gleidsberg cycle. The Gleidsberg cycle is essentially a known prediction of how the sun wanes and waxes. NASA, we're not talking, this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is scientific stuff. NASA's formula, MIT's, they all know about this. Mm-hmm. And it basically talks about how the sun strengthens and weakens over an 11-year cycle. And that's part of the Gleidsberg, but it's part of a bigger cycle where the sun actually gets bigger. So with that being said on my page too, I'd like you to ask, I'm going to ask Nick a question. When we have an eclipse, right, we're able to do what? The moon does what?
Is in front of the sun.
It perfectly is supposed to cover the sun, right?
Yes.
In our last eclipse, could you not see some of the sun around the moon?
When was the last time we had an eclipse?
Recently.
I have to look this up now.
Everyone needs to Google it, make your own assumptions. But the point is this. In the larger cycle of the sun itself, the corona, the actual what's burning, okay, that is actually bigger now. Our sun is getting bigger. It's cyclically going through its motions. In a perfect eclipse, the moon covers the sun perfectly. It always has, always will. But as the sun gets bigger and can possibly be ready for a new magnetic storm or something worse, do you see what I'm saying? We can see our sun is getting bigger. Okay, so back to number one. The question that I always love in this is, you know about the Mariana Trench, right?
Yes.
Mariana Trench.
Very deep.
Okay. Have you ever actually heard geologists that ponders them so much?
What's actually down there?
Not only because it's super down there, but because of the formations of how it was made. It has been said by some leading geologists that the only way the Mariana Trench really could have been formed is in open air.
Now, with no water.
No water. There is no. They can't explain it. They cannot explain why the Mariana Trench has the formations and the characteristics that it does, because a trench of that character, just like the Grand Canyon, had to be formed with open air.
Okay.
Now, I am going to, and now this is nothing scientific, but I am going to suggest this. This is the last point of my thing. And I've heard this said by some pretty interesting people that like physics. If the Earth continues to stop, right? Yes. Hear me out on this. If the Earth continues to slow by whatever cause, right? And it just completely stops.
Okay.
That's a big stop, right? Because I mean, it's going to have to kind of be it's not going to be a gradual thing because of just the mass of our Earth, right? Mm-hmm. So if it stops, what still keeps moving? All of the water. All of the water on our Earth keeps moving. And so if the Earth stops, the water keeps moving, and what was once ocean is now dry land. We die immediately. And you ready for another conspiracy? You ready for this? You ready for this, Neighborhood Nick? Who's to say that the Great Flood from Noah's time wasn't cyclical? Who's to say that the religion and the faith that we have wasn't passed down from people who experienced the first ice age, the first solar storm, kept the information to themselves, but wanted to make a religion out of it? And by making a religion out of it, they kept people safe, but they also carried on the history, thus Noah's Ark. Anyways, and also, and when Joshua when the Bible, when Joshua was praying to stop the moon and the sun for battle, that then would have almost correlated at the same time when the earth did stand still, and then the flood came shortly after. I don't know.
Okay.
All of that little last part was just a freebie. That was some crazy stuff. But no, the Mariana Trench and the Glasberg cycle and the fact that the earth is slowing, that's all hard fact. That's all data. The rest of the stuff, I just kind of added some conjecture. But that's what the sound guys do. When we're sitting here parked, we're in the studio, we're hanging out.
doing all sorts of crazy things.
And where can they find us, Neighborhood Nick?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first off, we hope you really enjoyed this deep, thoughtful, philosophical, slightly horrific in some regards, if you really think hard enough about it, conversation that has just been had. We hope you truly enjoyed it and made you think, ponder, and pray that hopefully we're all going to survive at least a little bit longer. Ladies and gentlemen, you can continue to see and listen to these types of talks and conversations with the Soundguys podcast.
Hang on. They don't have to pray. They just, they just need to make sure that, they get a bunker somewhere. They need to prepare to be a cave dweller. Why on earth would you have all the cave dwellers in these huge mountaintops that they found dead, hundreds of people in communities that they locked themselves into a cave unless they knew the flood was coming? Oh, well, sorry. Yeah, but we'll be like them. We'll live there for if we can make it through 40 years living in a mountaintop, we'll be okay. Neighborhood Nick will be with us.
We can try and do our best. Or we'll be like the Russian hikers and go insane and eat each other and slowly die one by one.
I can't wait to eat you, Neighborhood Nick. Yum.
No, you would be first to go.
I probably would. I'm so fatty though. I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, but that means there's a little more meat on you.
You guys wouldn't get nearly as much deliciousness as you should.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us.
This has been a great episode. We've been really, really happy with everybody. It's just been
it's fantastic.
Good stuff.
Fantastic. But if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe so you never miss any episodes in the future. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, give us a good rating on Apple, help us climb up that algorithm, and encourage your friends, your neighbors.
Help us climb up that apple tree.
Exactly. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell the stranger on the corner of the sidewalk to listen to the Soundguys podcast.
Yeah.
My name is Neighborhood Nick from the studio.
Like Neighborhood Nick said, thanks for joining us, guys. I really appreciate you spending your daily dose of whatever. You invested an hour with us, so it's been great. I'm Banjo Bob.
And I am the Neighborhood Nick, live from the studio.
I'm live from my dirty old van, living on the top of a mountain.
You're in a valley, not in a mountain.
Good night, everybody.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey.